To me, Friday is the beginning of a wind down for the week. I do different things if I'm working on the weekend. I'm happy to be sharing this with you all. I would like to try on Fridays to have sort of a reflection day, to take a look at what's gone before, what have we learned, how have I moved through what's going through. This can be from a business front, it can be from a personal front, it can be from an energetic front. I always see all of these things. I have some really awesome awarenesses this morning that I will be sharing in my post on Sunday. But for today, I had been thinking that I wanted to talk a little bit in a more informal way about what I've been doing with the lives that I've been doing and just the learning I have as it relates to business and how to share programs and visibility and marketing and norms. And so if you're listening, we're about 1 minute in, and I just want you to know that what the essence of this is talking about is that sometimes all of the norms and practices and things that we learn about how to be visible, how to share something, how to market it, don't really work. And there's conditions under which they don't work in the same way. And I'm walking through that and figuring it out. And what I'm noticing is that as I'm introducing a framework that crosses multiple topics, I'm having to approach it differently. And all of the things that I've learned from business coaches in terms of how to market and what to say and how to position and how to share things on Instagram and how to stage something out, it is not applicable. It's not working in the way that I would like it to work. And it feels incorrect. So when I check in internally, it's not working internally either. So from a soul guided way, it's not working. And so one of the things that I do and I teach is that I pay attention to what's going on with me. I look at it from a larger pattern and try to understand how it applies to the segment of people that are like me. So internal guidance. Yes. Hi, Holly. I'm really happy you're here. I did notice you pop in. I wanted to make sure I got that synopsis at the beginning, though, so that if you want to stick around, you know, now this is what you're sticking around for. It's sort of an exploration of what that is for people like us. If you don't have your coffee or tea, I hope you do, because I love it, although it can be a lot later where you are if you're on the Eastern time zone or if you're on the other side of the planet, like some of my clients are. I'm happy to have you here, Holly. Please feel free to chime in and I will pay attention to the chat. So, yay! Where in the world are you? As Holly, in what city, state, country? Okay. Oakland. Okay. I almost moved there and I said, not that Oakland per se, but up in the Northern California area. But chose Phoenix instead for now, all for astrology reasons. It feels really good living on my Jupiter, Sun, Uranus lines. It's really interesting too. Okay, so for today, happy Friday. I'm already feeling the moon that's coming next week. It's a big one. So if you have been feeling the energies, I'm thinking that's some of what's going on. That's my kitty moon. This is how I navigate not having to maintain a litter box, by the way. They come and go on their own. All right. So one of the things that I'm really noticing as I've been doing lives, I'm following some of the practices that are pretty standard, which is if you have a program, like show up, talk openly, share vulnerably, let people know who you are. I know that in my business, my work really resonates with people who want a personal connection. And so I'm happy to do this. And I'm really comfortable talking on camera if I don't have to script something. When I have to script something, that's just too much work. So I've been working on these lives, and the lives give me an opportunity to practice my language without someone else there to respond to, because as an intuitive, I'm very accustomed to having a feedback loop. And when I don't have that, then I'm just still. I'm a generator. That has to respond to something internally. I have a lot of open centers, so I just can chill in my own field for a long time. So practicing on camera has been helpful. And what I'm noticing is a couple of interesting things. My content, my sense of self, my awareness of what I'm teaching has gotten a lot clearer. even though I was really clear going in, but being able to speak it for someone else to hear has gotten a lot better and clearer. And I've been really looking at doing a better job of showing up in some of the more common places like Instagram, which I generally avoid because I just don't do sound bites well. But, I have gotten sucked into the whole Jessie Jean Yap and I'm a challenge thing. And I'm aware of how much is out there. And there's so much good content. And there's so many great people talking and sharing and teaching and my coaches are always on. The mentors that I follow are always on. They are on daily. They share something, and how they do it in the midst of their lives is stunning to me because they have complicated lives. So I figure I can do this, right? And what I'm noticing is that I really don't think I can, not with the content I'm delivering, not in the way that they recommend, not with what I would like for it to accomplish for me. So let me give you a bit more detail to understand. I have a new framework that I'm teaching or want to develop and share with the world. And I cross multiple different, we're going to call them categories of industries. So I cross business. So there's a whole business line of things because I like to work with business women, and I often see my stuff in relationship to how can they be successful in business as a woman, as an intuitive. So then I cross into what I would call sort of the personal development side of things, which is how do I live in alignment with myself as an intuitive, as a spiritually oriented woman, as somebody who's sensitive and aware of the world. So I've got business, and then I've got personal development. And in a way that I cross into soul path, because the intuitive ties to being on your soul path for me. And what is your soul purpose? How do you live your life in alignment with your soul and your spiritual concept? So I've just gone from business to personal development to mystical and metaphysical stuff. 1, 2, 3. Then I add in things like astrology and human design, which are their own categories. They have their own definite categories. And then when I want to introduce a new framework for women in midlife, it crosses all of those categories. And what I'm doing with this framework is not horribly revolutionary in any regard, but the way I'm taking all of these pieces, putting them together, and then offering them out is different. And so I'm sitting in the middle of a landscape that teaches us how to deliver content via social media, or pretty much any social media or any communication medium that we have. How do you deliver content? Well, a lot of these people are delivering content to audiences that already have inbuilt norms, understandings, and systems. Like they already have a framework to understand things. So if you're trying to teach somebody business, so we'll take one of my coaches, mentors, for instance, they have a spectacular way of naming reframes, new perspectives, new orientations to business, to things within business, how to be efficient, how to make money, how to live your life well. It's all really tightly framed, but everybody on the conversation is oriented to the topic of business, and they already have understandings of business. Now, for me, when I think about business and I think about it in relationship to intuitives and mystical, metaphysical people who are aligned with their soul, who are following some other metric for business rather than traditional efficiency or money, business is already a little bit off skewed for me, right? So when I speak to my people, I'm not speaking to them expecting that they are following the norms of most business. Now, fortunately, with time, since I've been doing this for a while, this is now more normal. People now understand, I'm going to stay internally aligned, follow my soul, and I can do business. So that's become more normal. The other part about intuition has also become more normal. So I just assume that my people speak intuition. They understand that there's a way that we sense the world and lead from that, which is part of how we connect to me, how we connect to our soul. And this used to be extremely foreign, not so much anymore. So more people are much more into eternal alignment. So these two messages I can assume that most people will get it and pick it up pretty quickly. But where I'm finding that there's more of a disconnect, because there's elements to this, right? The niche that you're speaking to can be really small and obtuse or difficult to identify. I think about the different people I've worked with over time, and sometimes what they say is, well, it's really hard for me to find my people or reach them with a message. Well, when you stack these three things on, sometimes that can get difficult. So for me, I've been really assessing what is the exact niche. It's a combination of everything I talk about, but I'm not as worried for myself about niche because I'll trust that people will find me. The fourth piece that's really challenging for me is when what you have to say is so new that people don't have orientation to it. So what I find is I can talk to women who are in midlife, but then applying what I'm talking to doesn't necessarily land for them as something related to business. Or if I speak to somebody about astrology, connecting everything back together to intuition, business, personal development, and midlife, there are all these components that come together. And if I were to lean into some of the simple messages of here's an awareness, I could give you an awareness in one tiny piece of this, but then miss the bigger picture. And I've been really reflecting on how do you handle this when you have this spectrum of elements that I really want to address, and I don't like to deliver things in simplistic mode. And it isn't really, I can give you the simplistic answer, which is follow your soul's guidance. You have a developmental architecture over midlife. And if you know it, it helps. Simple. But that doesn't necessarily help when you're speaking to a mass audience. And how do you offer steps into an understanding without losing somebody before they've even given it a chance? So there's a lot of this stuff that I've been playing with. And fortunately, one of the answers for me is that it gives me a lot of permission to give a lot more information up front. I am not a scarcity model type person. It's another way that I see business differently. One of the things that I really think about is if I give you everything, that's fine. And a lot of business is about giving people a tiny piece. A lot about communications is giving people a piece of information, but withholding the rest. And I've watched a lot of business mentors do this. And I've also watched business mentors teach all of their content and then allow people to figure it out themselves. So I'm one of those people. I'm like, here, I'll teach you how it all works. And then you can figure it out yourself or work with me, up to you. So it's been fascinating to kind of start to deconstruct all of these elements, because I know I have many clients who are wrestling and tend to wrestle with some of the same things. What I'm learning to do is orient differently to what I'm communicating. So what I've done is I've scheduled 4 lives over next week that take people through core pieces of what would help them understand themselves in relationship to a new framework. So I'm not straight up just teaching the framework. I'm helping them orient to themselves and to the framework. Orient to, I am this person, and because I am all of these pieces, business, intuitive, soul, willing to listen for other answers, going through midlife, because I'm all of these pieces, I can see midlife differently and I can see my life differently. And when I do, things become easier. So that's kind of the piece. So I have one element to that. And then it's like, okay, what's the piece that you need to know? And then if you know that piece, then what else would hold you up? Well, let's take a look at some of those pieces because they're universal for my audience. And then I can put all of the pieces together in one contained place where I can take people through the whole thing. So I'm going to test this out and try it. One, for my own practice, because I think it's about practicing something, but also allowing for my energy to continue to align. So I also recognize that whatever I do, whatever comes back to me in the world is a reflection of my growth. And if I can continue to play with my own soul and my own intuition, that then whatever it is that I put out comes back. And so I'm practicing that. And so I know these are unusual little metrics, but I have been posting a lot and sending a lot of emails to my list. And I'm actually really grateful and truly surprised that I have not had a lot of unsubscribes. To me, that's a win. I'm like, great, I'm on the right track. Similarly, of all of the notes I have posted to be visible publicly, I am not getting any likes or comments, which is unusual. So I'm reading this in this really refined way of thinking, something's working and something needs to be shifted a little bit energetically. And the way I read the whole thing when I sit and feel for it is I'm trying to share content and share my work in a method that is too tight and constrained, is the best way that it feels when I check my field. It's like you're trying to run this through this. So now figure out how you can turn this bigger so that you can deliver the information in the way that it wants to breathe. So that what it does is then I look at the landscape of possible communication mediums, and frankly, Instagram is not the approach. I need someplace that gives me an opportunity to have more breadth and interaction with somebody. So I come to Substack, which is a comfortable medium for me. And then it allows me to send this to YouTube. So it's going to be video, clearly. And I do writing. So Substack allows me to write this as well. Again, longer with more depth. And then the question becomes, how do I then use these other mediums? Like, are they effective? Do I go to an Instagram or a TikTok, or do I look at Reels? Do I look at Shorts? Like, are those options that are available to me? And in the traditional marketing world, they would say, yes, cut this piece down and do this, and cut this down and do this. And it's possible I might do that. When the automated services like Substack will give me a clip, it gets pretty close, but then it misses pieces, which I'd have to invest more time in. And I don't know if that return is going to be worth it. Right now, I don't really have the time to do that, but it is a possibility. What I do know, because if I look at the engagement that I have on Instagram, is that there is a way that Instagram can be useful, but not to teach and to reach out to all of people that are wanting to work with me. It is a way to capture interest on one of my segments, one of my categories. It's a way to capture interest if I talk about business and how I see it in relationship to being intuitive. It's a way to capture interest if I want to talk about personal development as it relates to being intuitive. It is a way to capture interest if I want to talk to people about soul path, soul purpose, how your soul guides you in your life and how it helps your business. There are these little segments that I can reach that allow me to capture someone's interest, but it doesn't allow me to deliver content in a traditional way. It's capturing interest. So then I would structure something along those lines that would allow me to capture interest and allow them to find their way into whatever else I'm developing. And so what I'm developing now is a larger body of work that can explain a more complicated framework that is new across categories. This is an interesting awareness for me because I've touched on this in the past, back when I did marketing, but living in it at that time was really different. This was before cloud services were a norm. And so now sitting on the other side of it in a totally different world with my own framework, it's really requiring me to look at how do I do this in this world now where everything is social media and active and engaged and connected. And then how do I not ignore the physical world? Meaning, how do I use real human to human contact through relationships and networking in addition to this world? Because I think that we're going to find that that's going to be more important going forward. So there's all of these interesting things I've been working through. And what I want to share with my people is that if you find that marketing and growing your business is difficult and it feels a little more challenging, I get you. It kind of is. It kind of is. You're not working in an existing category. You're working across categories. And it helps to understand that, and then to recognize where do each of those categories meet you and which ones have crossovers that you can work with. And then realize that it is going to be more about relationship building, or building, I know they say building trust, but building connection and understanding with somebody over time, rather than expecting that you can put something out really quick and wow, there's a huge return. So now it's possible, because I'm thinking of some people who've done this. It is possible to do if you have a niche offering. And the second thing I would say you would have to be able to do is have chosen one of your niches and offered one reframe out of it. So in other words, the place I've seen it happen most is somebody who does something that's mystical or metaphysical for business. Now that's a simple offer that is lower ticket and easier to get an instant fix off of. That's not going to be true for my work because I do deeper work. However, what I'm teaching, the concepts, are accessible to everyone. To work with me is a different thing, but to understand what I have to share with the world is something that is available to everyone, which I can offer for free. Okay, that's my big awareness. Thinking about how to share that, but I probably could dissect this down into an article, but I kind of feel like it was helpful for me to talk it out and name it, and maybe it's helpful for you too. That is my intention. And I'm going to close with a really interesting connection. So in relationship to my framework, which talks about midlife, which I'm addressing in terms of depending on what age you are across 40 to 60, late 50s, there are stages of development that we go through. And in every stage, it is actually an architecture, your soul organized for you to move through. This is soul planned. And I'm currently right at the beginning of my second Saturn return, which is one of the developmental parts of that. And one of the things that my soul is saying to do at this time is get yourself sorted. And ironically, it has to do with getting yourself sorted with how I use my voice to be of service, not just to be of service, but how am I using my voice? And that requires a number of things when you're playing with Saturn, which is how are you owning your authority? Are you clear about your power? Have you gotten your lessons learned? There's this really complete sort of overhaul that Saturn really requires you to own. And I find it interesting that this is what's showing up for me. So I received enough clarity to put this framework together. And now I have to be able to stand with my voice, trying to articulate something that is kind of different across a lot of different categories, and figure out how to do it while still owning my authority and my sense of self and my agency and my expertise. And it's a journey, because for me, the second Saturn return is going to go on for several years. So I found it very fascinating as I self-reflect on the framework and how applicable it is and continues to be. So if you're interested, let me know. Happy to talk more about it. But you can also sign up or choose to receive the communications on the lives that I have. So I have a live coming on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sunday, you're going to get something written to everybody. So I really appreciate you listening. Please let me know if you have questions. I would love to answer them. And if you have any comments, let me know. And Holly, if you're still on, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Okay, I've made it up to like almost 25 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up and wish you all a beautiful weekend. I'll be back next Friday. Probably do something a little more chill than this, but this was my top ahead that I wanted to get out. So thank you for listening.